Fred, today we want to discuss our Pittsburgh UFO conferences and past guests and future guests. But before we start that, we have an anonymous guest today.
Right.
And, this is not unusual to have somebody not want their identity known.
Right.
I mean, we see it on cases all the time. Like, what I do when we get our cases in on MUFON, sometimes you'll see a name and it's not the real name. It'll say JoJo. So
Right.
what I do, I look at the email address and it says John Ventry at Comcast. So I know that's not the name. But that happens a lot, where the person doesn't want their identity known.
And I think it's what happening more and more today because of the government interference with everything else.
Yeah, well, it goes back to the CIA. I mean, there's documents found in 1979 where the CIA said they were going to debunk UFOs, make fun of witnesses. They were going to infiltrate UFO organizations. And they even went as far as saying, if a kid does a book report on a UFO book, he would not receive a grade. I mean, you think about the psychology of how deep they think this through. And they take credit. They take credit for a number of TV documentaries where they said there's nothing to UFOs. It's not real. So let's just ask the anonymous. He's our guest today. Why is it that you don't want your name and your appearance known to the public? And it's something that happens a lot.
Well, it's not because of the aliens, and it's not because of the government. It's because of the people. Some people just can't understand this and so forth, and they don't believe in aliens, and it's just too much for them to compensate. So this is why.
So you're afraid of the anonymous shooter,
right?
But you're comfortable with the aliens,
right? The aliens take care of me.
Worried about the government?
No.
And I'm not really concerned about the government either. The CIA thinks that they've got this thing licked. They don't even take it very serious anymore.
The government knows of me already, so.
Yeah, and so you're afraid of the guy on the street that's going to retaliate.
Right. Well, this might be against his religion or something like that, or it's kind of hard to understand.
Well, the religious people absolutely believe the UFO phenomenon is demonic. It's evil. I mean, I've read that in so many books, and even the Catholic Church comes out and says they believe in all of this. They believe in the paranormal, in aliens, in all of that, but their question is, what's the origin? And they say the origin is fallen angels, demons, and Satan is the origin to that. So that's what you're concerned with, is somebody that would retaliate in the name of...
Well, I do believe in Jesus Christ. So, I mean, I know a lot of other abductees that believe in Jesus Christ too. And it seems like the aliens tend to, more abductees are believers of Jesus Christ.
Are you sure about that? I mean, I've read that
I know a lot of abductees.
People who have been, they tend to be people that are non-believers that, that applies to demonic activity, paranormal activity.
Maybe they're trying to steer us away. Maybe they're trying to steer us away from Jesus Christ. Maybe
a lot of people that you talk to, like I got a case right now, she said every time that one of the aliens come in, she'd pray to Jesus Christ and it'd leave.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a thing there. I mean, so.
But see, those are demonic encounters. They're leading you to believe that those are ET, but they're not. So, when was your first experience, encounter? How long ago? How old were you? When did it happen?
I can tell you about the one with my dog. I mean, that was really.
Was that the first
traumatic.
time?
No, there's other times.
Well, tell us when would you say the first?
I'll tell you what
how
about
far
the
back
dog.
does it go?
With my dog. One time, I took a picture of ET. I got a picture of him, and the next night they were walking through my wall of my house, and my dog lays on my bed with me. So I have a schnauzer, and what happens is I'm totally asleep, and next thing you know, I'm woken up. The whole room is all lit up, and these beings are all around my bed. I hear, "Calm your dog." Now I can't hear nothing. Okay, then all of a sudden my hearing comes back on, and my dog's up on all fours, growling and snarling at the aliens. I reach up from my bed, and I touch the back of my dog, and he went down onto my bed, like into a sleep with me, and I passed out then.
Okay. So when you have these encounters, are you physically going with them like you're awake now, or is it your spirit that goes, or are you out and wake up somewhere else?
Sometimes I go out of body into their ship, and sometimes I'm physically taken to their ship.
How long has this been happening? When did this first start?
Since I was born.
So as young as you were, as early as you can
As long
remember?
as I can remember, yeah.
Yeah. You know what's funny?
Anybody else in your family ever been abducted?
I don't think anybody would admit it. You know, I think my dad was into it, and I think my mom was too.
You know, I asked my brother, I saw him when I was down in Florida, he lives there, and I said, Guy, do you ever remember, I remember us playing in a room, and it almost looked like a metal type wall, and we were able to pass through the wall. And he goes, no, I don't ever remember that. I said, I remember that, being young, like 4 years old, and we were playing, and it was just a grayish like wall, like metal, and we were able to go through the wall, you know? So I don't know, you know, is that some repressed memory?
Could be.
Well, let me ask you this, Jimmy. When you,
Thanks.
Go ahead.
let me ask you this. When you do go up there, do you ever see anybody that you know?
Yeah, I see my neighbor up there.
Do they talk to you, or do you talk to them?
No. We're asleep. We're standing in line and all that. I remember one time I was up in line and I was just slouched over, standing up, and I feel my feet on a grate, like, and it feels all this electricity going up through my body, and it wakes me up. Then I go back down to sleep again. Now I feel this electricity come back up through my body again, wakes me up again. And I see all these people naked in line.
Naked?
Naked. We're all naked.
You know, that's not unusual. There's a lot of cases where people say they're there, and when they think about it and remember, they see neighbors, they see family members, and other people they'll meet years later, and they say, I know you. They look at each other and say, I know you, you know?
But let me ask you this. Okay, you've been taken up since you were born. How old are you right now? How old are you?
I'm the same age as John.
Well, anyhow.
58.
It's okay. So now, is there anything different now that they do to you than they didn't do when you were first taken up?
Oh, they treat me like gold now.
I mean, like, when you get abducted right now, or you go as an experience, or you go as a contactee, from the beginning till you come back, what happens with you? That's what we want to know.
What do you guys do? I mean, like, what happens? Is there a progression? Is there testing? Are they teaching you anything?
I think it comes all down to that fear test I was telling you about earlier.
Yeah, tell us about that. What do you mean by the fear test?
Well, I believe that everybody's an abductee, okay? I believe that they give a fear test to everybody to see how much you could withstand of them. And it could include paranormal, like ghosts and so forth. It could include bad dreams, to see how you deal with it. So you're visited by ghosts, you know, see how what you do when you see a ghost and so forth. Some people just panic and can't handle it. Some people drink themselves, sleep at night. So this is a fear test. I figure they perform on how much you could withstand. I have seen ghosts all my life. I've seen ghosts walking down the street and it disappear right in front of me, and I kind of wonder what happened to that person.
What do they do with the person that is completely freaked out and can't handle it? What do they do?
Well,
do they skip them?
I think they skip them, really. That's what I think I do.
So you're saying that the ETs are actually making the ghosts?
You're right.
So
well, they don't make the ghosts. They could
telepathy.
Well, they could control the ghosts. Let's put it that way. Suppose I see my father all the time. He passed away. Okay, he comes and talks to me and so forth. So, and sometimes I see him in my dreams too. I think they use him to communicate with me better.
Have you had any?
That's interesting.
Have you have any encounters with a younger like 8, 9-year-old, 10-year-old, any children that may have been yours through a hybrid program? Have you had any encounters with kids?
No.
See, I did back in '99.
You did what?
I had an encounter with, I went to my first MUFON conference in Northern Virginia, had these terrible dreams. You know, and to me they were lucid dreams, but in my dream, my Doberman, who was almost 100 pounds, was floating in the air. And there's this kid that was about the same age as my son at the time, he might have been 10, and he's standing there poking my dog, and I keep saying to him, stop poking the dog. And he had these huge forearms like Popeye and the bone kind of sticking out at the end. It was weird. And his face was like, almost like a rat, was pulled back, tight skin, no hair, you know, kind of like buck teeth. It was a weird look. But then as I remembered it, I wrote it down. And years later, as I was thinking back of it, I remember a different looking kid with kind of straggly hair. And then I went back to my notes. I said, no, that's the kid. Why? I have two memories of it. But that's what I'm saying. I remember this 10-year-old kid. My dog was floating in the air, and he kept poking him in the ribs. And I said, stop poking the dog. So I don't know if this was a hybrid kid of mine or one they introduced me to, if that's even real. You know, to me, it was just a lucid dream, you know, because I didn't feel physically I went anywhere,
right.
you know.
John is coming out of the closet of ETs.
Well, I mean, there's stuff that's happened that, you know, in the beginning you didn't know what it was. And I kind of like ignored it until I learned more on this. But, so what do you think the purpose of your encounters have been? I mean, are they giving you knowledge? Are they creating hybrids? What is the whole point of it?
I just enjoy it, really.
So you have no fear of them? You enjoy the contact?
I can't wait for the next thing to happen.
Who do you see on a ship? I mean, what do you have? Grays? You have who?
Yeah, what type of entities?
There's everybody. Everybody. There's the dog face, there's raccoon face, there's grays, there's all kinds of entities. I got a lot of pictures of all these.
But do their faces, is that their real face? Like they say you'll see an owl.
Yeah.
And the owl has always traditionally, the large owl, almost like Mothman, they said it was an owl. You know, that's always been the ET. They show you something you'll accept.
Right.
You know, Alice in Wonderland, the big rabbit, the big owl, those were ETs. You just can't see what they really look like.
Well, I got pictures of all these now, too.
I would like to see those. I kind of wish you would have brought some of
I
those.
sent you some pictures before there, John,
Did you?
through MUFON, and you kind of lost them because I never heard about them.
Okay, I'd like to see that again.
But like I say, I mean, so you have reptilians up there?
I never seen a reptilian.
You ever see a mantis?
Oh, I've seen a mantis, yes.
Insect type?
Yeah.
I don't like the insect type. To me,
they're
those
okay.
are.
I mean,
But see, I think they're evil. You don't think they're evil. You think they're here to help?
they're here to help us, yes, they
Okay.
are.
Do you think there's any evil ETs out there?
There's aliens that look demonic. Maybe they'd be evil to you, but I'm a different type of person, so they kind of like.
So, okay, what do they look like, the ones that you say may look like they're demonic?
Oh, no, they have horns and all that, sure.
Okay, you ever see anyone wear a hood?
Yeah, I seen one in my bedroom with a hood on. Big one.
Okay, you think that's a demonic one?
Well, they're probably trying to scare me on that scare test thing, that's all.
So there's the fear test. You don't think they're evil. I mean, what is their point of contact with you? What are they trying to accomplish?
Man, my mind's blank on this right here now.
All right. Well, while you're thinking about that, let's switch gears a little bit. And we wanted to talk, and when it comes to you can just interject it back in.
I think it's more like to move mankind into the 21st century. That's what I think.
Technology-wise?
No. To bring more religion down to mankind.
The way we interact with each other?
The way we interact with each other, all we do is fight,
Right.
kill each other.
Well, I was going to say, obviously, they ain't doing too much. I mean,
They haven't accomplished anything yet.
better go back up
That's all
and
we
read the
do is
books.
fight and kill.
Unfortunately. Let's switch gears a little bit at this point. We wanted to talk about the upcoming Pittsburgh UFO conference. We've done 7. This is going to be our 8th annual UFO conference. And Fred, take a look at the card. Everybody who comes in gets this souvenir card, and on the back there's a nice picture. It's kind of a souvenir. It's a UFO, but you know, the agenda. So they get this to keep. This is the first time we're doing this, and I think in the future we'll go.
Good.
It's nice looking too. That
It's
UFO on the
black
back.
and white thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we've upgraded. So in the future, though, I'm going to go to a little bigger size until we get to the right size as a souvenir. So why don't you look at it? Just tell us who's going to be there at this year's conference. If you know anything about them,
Okay,
just add your comment. You know.
Okay, 9 o'clock will be Stan Gordon.
Okay, and that's the 50th anniversary of Kecksburg.
Right, 50th anniversary of
important.
Kecksburg.
Yeah.
Yeah, Stan's been investigating that for some time. Stan's also been investigated UFOs, he's investigated Bigfoot, he's investigated all the paranormal around Western Pennsylvania. Then we have John Ventry.
I'm going to talk about the media because I got a real issue with the way the media covers this and the scientific community. So we're going to talk about why this thing is covered up. Again, what do we got next?
Okay, then you got lunch, then you got Pat Liptak, who's going to talk about fallen angels. I don't know Pat.
Yeah, I met him out in Johnstown. He's going to talk about the Nephilim, fallen angels, because there's a lot of people who believe that this is not extraterrestrial. These are fallen angels that we're encountering.
Then you have Sheila Forrester, UFOs and a Spiritual Mission. I've heard Sheila talk many times. She talks about ETs like Jimmy, that they're good. They're here to help us out. And she has another girl who works with her, I forget her name. Then you got Lauren Coleman, who is actually one of the fathers of criminology, cryptozoology, as far as that's concerned. He started back in the day.
What do you know about Lauren? I've never seen him speak.
Oh, he's good. I seen him down at the Creature Weekend one time.
In Ohio?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, he's coming in, and to me, that's our headline speaker, really more than the 50th anniversary of Kecksburg. It's Lauren Coleman, and he's written a number of books, received citations and awards. And
he's still, I mean, writing books, and I think he recently had an illness. He was operated on, and recently got married too.
Oh, okay.
About a year or two ago.
Yeah, so we're going to actually recognize him with a Lifetime Achievement Award in cryptozoology. And our last speaker is who?
Phyllis Glade.
Galdi. She's the...
Fate magazine.
Yeah, I mean, Fate magazine started in 1952. Their first issue was the Kenneth Arnold sighting. That UFO started Fate magazine. So a lot of people read Fate magazine. I was a Fate magazine reader before I was ever a MUFON member. And she's going to come in and talk about, I mean, she's got, you talk about the MUFON files. She's got a wealth of files on everything, UFOs, ghosts, cryptozoology, demonic activity, because Fate magazine covers everything. And I think that'd be really interesting to hear about her years. You know, Ray Palmer was the guy who started Fate magazine. It wasn't her. You probably recognize the name Ray Palmer. Goes back to Kenneth Arnold and a lot of those old cases back in the 50s. So, you know, that's, and, you know, our conference is at the Westmoreland Community College. It's on Saturday, November 14th. And to register, you go to MUFONPA.com. Now, we've had, this is, like I said, our 8th annual conference. Do you remember the first conference that we had here in Pittsburgh? You didn't come to the first conference? October 2008. I'll tell you who it is, because I actually wrote it down. You weren't there. I thought you'd been at all of them. We had Rick Fisher,
Kick him out.
Sean Kelly.
No, I wasn't.
You didn't make it? All right. That first conference we had in October 2008 was more of, I think, ghost paranormal than it was UFOs. We had Rick Fisher, Sean Kelly, Shill.
Yeah, Sean Kelly. I remember.
Yeah, Shill was there. I mean, so that's more of the paranormal stuff. And then, you know, Stan Gordon. And we had Nick Roy. Nick Roy used to teach a near-death experience class at the college. And I attended with Colleen. We went to that class. And I actually wanted to get into ghost hunting, even though, you know, I was a state director for MUFON. That was still an interest of mine. And that pulled me into a lot of this, but we never really did. We were supposed to go out into a cemetery. This whole Brazilian contingent of people joined with Santeria and different stuff, and they kind of took over the class and it kind of fell apart. So it kind of changed from what he was originally doing. But, and then the first conference we did over in Bucks County was based on the 2008 UFO wave across the state. We had Dr. David Jacobs, Bill Burns. Were you there for that?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
You remember how many people were there?
Yeah, I didn't go to the second one.
600.
Yeah.
600 people. That's the biggest conference we've ever had. We had people, I'm glad nobody, the college kind of let us run with it in Bucks County Community College. We had people standing, sitting in every row. We absolutely violated the fire codes. The hall probably held 350. We had 600 people there. But we did 2 conferences in '09. We did that one in January of '09, and then we came back with another one in the end of October of '09, and that was the one with our buddy Butch Witkowski, with the human abductions and his questionable investigative background. We had Richard Dolan, Burns, and Tom Carey on Roswell. I mean, we've had some really good, we had Stanton Friedman that year over here in Pittsburgh, and Friedman and Linda Moulton Howe have been our biggest draws, and then Travis Walton. But
I think Travis pulls in quite a bit.
Yeah, you know what? Linda has had the biggest crowd so far. Anytime we've had Linda, whether it was Bucks County or Pittsburgh.
She's not too friendly, though.
Well,
she likes to sit by herself, and she don't like to really mingle with the crowd like the rest of them.
Well,
do.
I mean, I think she's always working on her show with Coast to Coast, so she doesn't. She has books, and I asked her if she wants a table. She doesn't sign books.
You remember the case we had about the fish? The guy that called up and said the fish was abducted? Okay, she had talked to him prior.
Yeah.
And he was supposed to come to that conference. And when I
He
talked
didn't
to
show,
her,
did he?
No, she said, please do not even send him down here. You don't see me.
Well, that was a questionable case.
Yeah,
I mean, that one gave all the impressions of taking a drill and drilling a hole in the fish and saying that it was cored out. So and the fish was laying there, and no other animal would approach the fish. It was. I don't know about that case, but I just want to run through some of these. And then in 2010 we had Leslie Keene, as a speaker. 2011 we did the 2-day conference. You remember that?
Bigfoot.
Bigfoot on Sunday, UFOs on Saturday. Yeah, what were you going to say?
Okay, let me butt in here real quick here. Let me tell you what aliens really do with us. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Contactees, they pick certain contactees, okay, they like, okay, and that's it. And out of that, they use us for like surrogates. So they use all our senses, and eyes, ears, and so forth. And we're connected to a larger ship, and they experience our experiences we see each day.
Through us?
Through us, right. Through us.
So now they can actually see us right here?
Yeah, they hear you and so forth. Through my experiences. And I'm always at the right time, the right place all the time. So.
Hi, E.T.
So they're connected telepathically.
Telepathically.
So they're not in the room; they're somewhere else, but they're able to connect with you.
Right.
And then they could see what you're seeing.
All the time, 24 hours a day.
There's probably different stages that people go through, don't you think? Like not everybody they connected to like that.
You don't know. I don't know. I always thought all abductees and so forth. I thought everybody,
Well, that's an interesting perspective,
So I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. No, that's fine. We said when you think of it, to interject.
That's why all the ghosts, all the spirits come to me, and so forth, and so I could see them, they could see them, so forth, and I guess.
Okay.
They pick what they want to do with them.
All right. Fred, do you remember the 2011 conference with Stanton Friedman and Dr. Meldrum? That was a big conference. It was 2 days. We had over 300 people on Saturday, about 250 on Sunday. We were close to 600 people for the weekend. And then in 2012, we had the Romanek fiasco.
Right, where he was supposed to come and never showed up.
Yeah. He made us buy a ticket for his wife And he then cancels and says he has Lyme disease and is having his spleen out. He cancels, and then I find out he's at a high-profile dinner soliciting funds 2 weeks later.
Right.
So he never had any of that. We never got the money back. He never rescheduled. And as you know now, Romanek, he's actually arrested,
Right.
and he's actually going to trial right now.
Right.
So here's a very questionable guy in this field. Very, very questionable. So. So this year we got some really good guests,
Right.
and every year, who would you like to see in the future, Jimmy or Fred? Who would you? And we said Jimmy was the name we were going to call you on the show.
Oh, okay.
So who would you guys like to see us bring in the future?
How about Dolan? I always like Dolan.
Yeah, Dolan's been here. He's been in Pittsburgh. Who else? Who else would you like to?
I like George Knapp. He's my favorite.
Yeah, he could be. He may go to Bucks County because he's got family there.
Yeah.
Just like Linda has family there, and Lynn Katai has family there. So when you ask them to go to Bucks County, that's where they lived as a kid, they say yes. It's harder to get them here in Erie to speak. But who else?
I might be able to get George for you.
Well, if you've been on, have you been on Coast to Coast?
No, I talk to him all the time through chat.
Oh, okay. All right. I did one show on Coast to Coast with George Knapp last year around this time. Who else do you think? I've been thinking about a couple of themes. Like, what do you think about this? UFOs and the future of mankind.
That's good.
Talking about, transhumanism. Where is this going to take us in the future? That's something that I think we could do a pretty good conference on.
Who would we get for that, though?
I got a list here, and I don't want to let it out because other people, I've noticed, when I put our speakers out a year in advance for our 3 conferences, Pittsburgh, Erie, and Philly, other people then grab them and have those same people at their conferences before we do ours, because ours is at the end of the year. So, but I'm thinking about UFOs and fallen angels. Really expand on that topic because there's a lot to it. So
I've got a lot of pictures I could give you.
Yeah, we can take a look at those.
Throw them all in the background if you want.
Okay. Well, that's our show for today. Thanks for being on, and this is great material and discussion topics. Fred, let's discuss Project Blue Book today and some of the some other items in the news that I want to start off with. And we have our anonymous guest who we dubbed Jimmy here for this episode also. But here's an article that I cut out of the news, and I think you'll find this really interesting. This says that in 1930 in Manitoba, an entire Inuit village disappeared. There was half-eaten food left on the table, food hanging on the fire pits, cooking. 7 sled dogs were dead from starvation, and every grave in the town had been dug up. The bodies were gone from the graves in the town. The Canadian Mounties said that they witnessed a bright blue light. There were 2,000 people in the village, all gone. They're all gone. And they had seen these mysterious lights in the sky. They said they did find some of the sled dogs, and they were fine. And they were not in the village. They were out in the woods. Get this, there was a Catholic building in the village. It was completely desecrated with satanic symbols. The graves and all the bones had been removed from the graves, and they dumped garbage and stuff in the graves. And the thing that they said was to dig this up, it was frozen. The ground was frozen. So nobody has found, and there's 2,000 missing people. This is in 1930. So even if it was a cult, where'd the 2,000 people go? And you'd have to use machinery to dig up those graves, and there were no signs of anything.
How many graves did they dig up, you want to say?
I'm assuming from reading it, it was all the graves in the gravesite were emptied. All the bones and it was all gone, and it was just refuse and stuff thrown in there. This was in 1930. I mean, there are some strange things happen on this planet. We live in a haunted planet.
You had that one whole military unit missing too. I read, where they was there 1 minute and they weren't. They walked into a fog and they just
That was in Gallipoli, Turkey.
Right.
And it was in the middle of World War I.
Right.
They were there. The enemy was there. The fog rolls in, and there's 800 missing British soldiers. Nobody knows where they went.
Right.
They just disappeared. I remember in Vietnam too. They talked about villages. What was that guy's? Not Phil Schneider. The other guy said there were whole villages. Just they were taken. They disappeared. And the Predator movie was based on them. They were taking bodies, putting them in canisters, tagging them, and taking them to the ship.
Right.
And that was the basis of the Predator movie with Schwarzenegger. But let me move on to. We're going to segue into Project Blue Book. I found this book. I've been doing a lot of reading, right? And this is by Carl Sagan, okay? And the title was The Demon Haunted World. So I said, this is going to be a pretty good book to read. Talking the demon haunted world. I want to read this book, right? So I start reading it, and I buy my books, used. So somebody else, and there's some comments in the margins, but it's kind of interesting. Let me just run through this for you. Carl Sagan was a classmate of Stanton Friedman. So here are some of the topics that are in this book, and this will lead into Project Blue Book, right? So he talks about hallucinations, the dragon in my garage, the art of baloney detection, no such thing as a dumb question, junkies, science, and witchcraft. So you could see where I'm going with this. This was not what I expected when I bought this book. It didn't turn out to be what I had hoped for. So I dog-eared a few pages here. He says that technology is advancing and that mistakes are becoming too expensive when they make a mistake. So I'm saying to myself, yeah, when you create Lyme's disease, HIV, Ebola, and they get out of your labs, those are mistakes that are becoming too expensive to happen. He didn't say that, but that's what I read into it.
What do you mean getting out of your lab? They're putting them out of their lab.
Or they put them out on purpose.
Right, yeah.
I'm telling you.
That's a mistake after so many people start dying.
I agree with you there. He says that pseudoscience is embraced, but science is misunderstood. Religions are state-protected nurseries of pseudoscience. That's what he says about religion. And he says astrology is rife in India. Then he says says here, religions attempt to validate themselves with prophecy. Let's see, yet has there ever been a religion with the prophetic accuracy and reliability of science? He praises science to the hilt in this book. There's no forbidden questions in science, no sacred truths. They're open to all new ideas, and debate is valued. So whoever owned this book, in the margin puts here, accept evolution, because that's all that's taught, and they want you to believe that evolution's real and it works.
Right.
And all the evidence for evolution you could put on this table. There's no fossil evidence of anything turning into something else. So it really makes you laugh, right? And then the previous owner of the book put a note here, the data has been falsified to support the scientific claims. Doesn't that happen a lot? You find that they falsified the data leading up to their conclusions. I mean, I got a real issue in a lot of ways with science, because we put all our faith in science, and they've done good things. I take my Prilosec, if I'm going to eat something spicy. The Z-Pack works great for the flu. But when you put all your faith in science, I think you're going down the wrong direction, Then he puts in here, I might be wrong. Of course, I might be wrong. And the person who owned the book says, you are almost completely wrong. I thought that was so cool that somebody else had put their comments
Well,
in.
that
Yeah.
book's 20 years old, John. You know,
Yeah, well, it might have been, I don't know how old.
they didn't
those-
have
those-
internet back then, or
Yeah,
all
those
the sites
comments.
we have
But
now.
get this, so now here's the kicker. He was a member of the Scientific Advisory Board to Project Blue Book, right? But what was in those files wasn't worth much. He speaks highly of Dr. Condon, who we know
Liar.
lied through his teeth with Blue Book. He covered the whole thing up with Blue Book, and we're going to get into that. That's why I say this is a segue into Blue Book. He says there's no doubt that humans commonly hallucinate. So he would say everything that you told us on the previous episode was just a hallucination. None of that is real. Why do so many people today report this particular set of hallucinations? So that's a good question. Why are you seeing aliens and grays? Why aren't you seeing Mr. Potato Head? You know, why aren't you seeing alligator-headed reptiles walking around? You know, or clowns? Why is it this? So he don't answer that. That's a question he couldn't answer. But he goes on through this book. All he did was make fun of everything science couldn't explain. But he said science is so open-minded. Science this, science that. It says alien abduction accounts are mainly, get this, about brain psychology, hallucinations, distorted memories of childhood, and hoaxing. He criticizes everything. You know, I have never burned a book in my life because I treasure books. I read a book a week. But this book is
strong.
kindling. That's how angry I got reading the phoniness of science and the praising of science. And you know, this guy, Carl Sagan, he had the Cosmos series, right?
Right.
And even today, Neil deGrasse Tyson, we tried to get him to speak at the conference. I'm told his speaking fee is $17,000 and he doesn't work weekends. Well, you know, if I got paid $17,000 for one appearance, I wouldn't work weekends either. But when you watch his show, what's in the opening? A UFO. So they take the UFOs, just like he did, they capitalize on people's interest in it, but then they come out and say there's no such thing, we've never been visited, there's no signs of intelligent life anywhere in the universe, including them. So this is kindling for my fireplace. Now we can talk about Project Blue Book.
Now we're talking about a bunch of more liars.
Yeah, well, let's continue to lie. No book has upset me as much as that book. And people praise him. And even Stanton Friedman says he was not a supporter of life in space and UFOs. Made a lot of money on it, you know, but not...
You say he was
At the
actually
time-
an advisor to Blue Book?
At his, oh, sorry,
Yeah,
go ahead.
okay, say what you're going to say.
At his time, 20 years ago, you know, he wrote it and everyone appreciated what he wrote then. But as time goes on, 20 years from now, we have the internet, we know better.
Well, no, his successor is Neil deGrasse Tyson. He follows the same footsteps, tells you the wonders of the universe and what we're going to do in the future. And you'll see him in interviews. He'll laugh when you mention UFOs and have we ever been visited. He'll say there's no evidence of it and smile and break out laughing. But he'll make a lot of money showing a UFO on the intro to his show.
Yeah, but
So
a lot of
I don't watch Cosmos. I will not watch Cosmos.
There's
Watch
a-
Hangar One.
Yeah, there's a guy that has a newsletter. He don't like MUFON or UFOs, but yet he uses all the MUFON UFOs.
That's
He
exactly
talks
what
about
they
them
do.
when he does it.
So let's segue into Blue Book. And this, what happened was, Fred, back in January, you probably remember this article came out. I cut this out of the Tribune Review. And it says, now you can read U.S. files on UFOs. Air Force compiles 130,000 documents from Project Blue Book and Project Grudge. So if you remember, this whole thing showed up on John Greenwald's Black Vault. Remember that?
Right.
It was there. I actually did a radio interview with Mike Pintek here in Pittsburgh, and we were on the interview, and he goes, John, it's not there anymore. I went to the vault, and it's no longer there. What happened? So I told him what happened. What happened was, get this, Ancestry.com owns the rights to any military-related files from the government. Ancestry.com. So what happened was they made Greenwald take it down, and those are found on Ancestry.com now. I guess it brings people to their website, and then you want to do your background, and maybe there's something there that...
You got to pay. You got to pay like $20 to join.
Oh, it's $99.
It's $99?
$99. But maybe if Ancestry.com, when they ran their DNA test, could tell us if we're part alien or hybrid or, you know, I don't get the Ancestry.com, but they own the rights to the military files, and that's where they go. And the Black Vault, the vault had to take it down.
Well,
So what do you know about Blue Book?
Well, Blue Book started back, I think, in '52. It was Grudge, and then...
Yeah, 52.
Right, and they investigated 12,618 sightings, and 701 of them were remained as unidentified, which is not too much.
Yeah.
Again, I think that they came in, they lied, and they got out.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, in the majority of the cases. And a lot of times...
But we should thank Project Blue Book.
Yeah.
Because of Blue Book, MUFON started. Think about it.
Right. Well, yeah.
They ended in '69. We started in '69
right.
because we knew it was, everybody back then in the '60s figured out this was a whitewash of the UFO question. Get this too, and I read this. You mentioned how many cases they had. They couldn't explain 701. Do you know how many cases they actually investigated? They actually sent people out and did investigations on? 59 cases. In 17 years, they investigated 59 cases where they actually sent people out to do the investigation. They were averaging 3 to 4 cases a year. And then they still had 701 cases they say were unidentified. And they spent $523,000 they paid the University of Colorado to debunk the cases. That's how J. Allen Hynek got pulled in. They said, here's the reports, 12,000. How many can you match up to known objects? And that's how he got into it. And then if you remember in 1966, there's the Trick Memo. Have you heard of the Trick Memo? Dr. Robert Lowe is the project coordinator for Dr. Condon. He writes a memo to the Condon Committee on how we're going to trick the public into believing that we're actually objective and working on this when the entire panel is filled with non-believers with no expectation of proving UFOs to be real. And you know what? For whistleblowers, some clerk in the office took that, photoed it, and leaked it. You know, it probably went to Major Kehoe, one of those guys that was pro-UFO. But that's what Blue Book was about. Ged, what else did you have on Blue Book?
But no, okay, this ain't Blue Book, but you know, if like Jimmy was saying, he's being abducted. Okay, now this happened back in the 60s too. You got cattle mutilation back in the 60s. Now, how can Blue Book actually say this stuff ain't happening? This is another reason they're doing it, because if they, you know, allegedly Eisenhower made a deal with the aliens. So if he made a deal with them, they had to debunk everything.
Well,
made it look like there's nothing out
what
there.
happened.
Right.
Yeah. And you know, that's why Hynek changed. He was on their side, and he eventually opened up a UFO reporting agency, UFOs, because he said the arrogance of the Air Force, the quality of the people reporting. You know, you had pilots and doctors and lawyers. Not that their report's any better than a cab driver, but the quality of the people were incredible. So he switched sides on it, and they would say anything. And when Congressman Ford asked them to get involved with the cases in Michigan, and Hynek said they were swamp gas. That was a huge embarrassment to him, and he started to change his thinking that, you know, I'm being made a fool of. I'm the patsy. I'm basically the patsy.
Didn't they have hearings though? Didn't they have hearings back then?
Yeah, there was a congressional hearing on it. Ford, when he was congressman, actually got congressional hearings. There's been 2 congressional hearings and 1 UN hearing on UFOs, but that's back 50 years ago. Try doing that today. Try getting congressional hearings on this today. Not going to happen. We're not more open now than we were before.
We're less open now. Because
Absolutely.
there's more knowledge. I mean, it's like, you know, again, how can you say, okay, move on. Project Blue Book says that there's no national security issue. Okay, now, what do you mean if somebody's being abducted, if cows are being killed, if humans are being abducted and mutilated, there's a problem there.
Well, you had all the cases in the 60s at the Air Force bases, at Malmstrom, Minot, all of those military bases. They're not in Blue Book. You know where they are? The best cases were not given to Blue Book. So the 12,600 and something cases, they didn't include the best cases. They were the worst cases, but they still couldn't explain them all.
But they didn't want you to see them.
But get this, and this is what bothers me. People, you know, they remember the press conference on Blue Book, and when I'm asked to do an interview, they'll refer to, well, the Air Force said they no longer investigate UFOs, there's nothing to it.
That's a lie.
But then I said, well, wait a minute. What about the general who came out 6 weeks before the Blue Book report came out? General Bolender came out in October of '69, and he said, reports that affect national security were never part of Blue Book. They were investigated on the JANP 146, which is Joint Army, Navy, Air Force Procedures, and Air Force 55-11. He comes out and tells you that's not part of Blue Book. Everybody ignores that and waits for the press conference from Blue Book, and that's what they remember, being told that there's absolutely nothing to this.
But if they say today, okay, who investigates them today? All right. Why is it that when you have a triangular craft line, you'll have two jets coming right behind it, or helicopters coming right behind it?
That's seen a lot.
So who are they? I mean, are they not the government?
Yeah. Well, do you remember the Huffington Post in 2008? They were going through, you know, whatever, doing their research, and they see in the Air Force's manual 10-206, it says how to report UFOs in 2008. Well, why is that there 40 years after you said you're not going to investigate them? You have a procedure. The Air Force ended up removing that paragraph from it, but they have always, and anything that's over a military base, a power plant, anything that has national security, they will investigate. They're not going to investigate the case over my house or your house. Well, that's not national security.
We had the one case where down in Monessen, me and Sam, where the lieutenant colonel was up there visiting his brother-in-law on 4th of July. And a triangular craft came over, and the brother-in-law lives in there, said that, well, here it is, you'll see two jets coming by, two F-14s. And the lieutenant colonel says, no, he says, then there's going to be two F-16s when they flew across. And he called in. And we got a call from him the next day. So, I mean, why are the jet chasing this stuff?
Well, you had the case.
If they're not investigating them.
Stevensville.
Yeah.
Or six. Six. What were they, F-16s?
Yeah.
Chased this UFO. Why? Because it was near President Bush's Crawford Ranch. That's why they went up there and they chased it. But, you know, I read an interesting quote, and I think it was by Major Kehoe. He said that the CIA has always been the gatekeeper of this. He said the Air Force wanted to tell the public, but they didn't know how. And the CIA said, you can never tell the public. And it goes hand in hand with what the Brookings Institute did in 1960 when NASA asked them to take a look at the implications. And they said, you can't tell people about this. You've got to do anything you have to do. Lie, cheat, debunk, execute. They didn't say that. They didn't say that, but that's what's happened to people. You know, mysterious suicides and early deaths in your 40s and 50s.
Well, look at Congressman Schiff, whatever his name is, from New Mexico, when he started on a Roswell deal. He died, what, 7 months later?
He had fast-acting brain cancer right after that.
I mean, I think that if you come close to what you want to find, you take a tour. Because they're not going to let you talk. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Carla Turner was into the abductions. She ends up dying of cancer. You know, you had Murphy got hit by a car, the guy here at the radio show in Greensburg with Kecksburg. You had John Mack, Harvard psychiatrist. You know,
but there's questions about that now. They're saying that the John John Mack that actually got run over was not the John Mack that,
Oh, I didn't hear that.
yeah, there's some questionable stuff over that incident.
Yeah. All right. Well, so, you have anything else on Blue Book? Any other facts on
Yeah,
it?
well-
I mean, it's basically been a whitewash.
Okay.
But what did they say about Kecksburg, Blue Book?
Well,
Then how many people did they send?
Huh?
How many?
Three.
They sent 3.
Every base back then had a UFO officer, which, nobody really ever knew. Okay, that's just really coming out. And they say they sent 3 people down there and didn't find anything.
And no flatbed.
Right, and I mean
But all the people said there was armed military with rifles and a flatbed. I mean, no, the flatbed they said was definitely something was taken out. And Murphy had pictures of it too. And it is also
I want to know one thing, John.
I have a
Okay?
sworn
Yeah,
deposition
yeah,
by a guy
Yeah.
who drew a picture of it, and he had it notarized, a deposition, saying the Army vehicle with that cone-shaped object was taken out.
Let me ask you a question. Okay, if that's true, how did they get that object on the flatbed? Did they pick it up?
I don't know.
They didn't have nothing down there to pick it up, so how did they get it on there?
They had 40 military
Yeah.
Army guys that hoisted it up,
This is
300 pounds each.
This is the Roswell on the East Coast.
Well, there's
okay,
a lot
you know?
of questions
Yeah,
with a
yeah.
lot of these cases as
But
to
you look at it, and they say they actually only sent 3 people down there.
But let me tell you this, if they could build the pyramids with rollers, they could lift that thing and put it on a flatbed,
Yeah,
you know,
okay,
if that's the pyramid story is true.
Okay.
So, all right, what do you got? What else you got?
They have
there?
arms hanging out too, you know.
Yeah.
Anyhow, when we're looking at this, it says critics believe that members of Project Blue Book covered up the real story behind UFOs. Since the published report was number 16, okay, they had the one report allegedly in Ohio where the family was abducted and they didn't release that.
Okay.
Okay, but they say they asked what happened to previous 15 Blue Book reports. You got 16. The first 15 you never have.
They didn't
Where
tell
were
you what
at?
they were?
Right, but yeah, it was all stuff like that. The program used poor research methods, and researchers were too eager to label mysterious sightings as identified phenomena. The goal of Project Blue Book was to explain every case as identified, even if there wasn't supporting evidence. All right. Now let's take the Portage County case.
Yeah.
Okay, where Spar and Neff.
Yeah.
Okay, they chased the UFO from Portage
Ohio,
County
yeah.
all the way into Pennsylvania. There's like 4 or 5 different departments seen that.
There were 7 officers
Yeah.
were in the chase. It
Right.
was involved 5 counties, and there were 19 pedestrian witnesses
Right.
also.
So what happens? Here comes Project Blue Book in. Oh, that was Venus. So what they do? They had the exact thing they was going to say before they even got there.
Right.
Now they ruin everybody's life.
Yeah.
Okay, so people are saying back then, why should I say something when they're going to make an idiot out of me?
Well,
and that's why a lot of people didn't want to,
They went after their own military pilots
Right,
that
right.
reported
Yeah.
it. They would say that you're a drunk. And
Yeah.
Spower and Neff, that's a shame.
Yeah.
I mean, the one guy, Neff, I think, went to Seattle, became,
Right. Cook or
a
something.
cook, and the other guy, Spower,
Yeah, he drunk himself.
he lost
drank
his
himself to
marriage. He
death.
lived in
Yeah.
a hotel, and he became a house painter, and he was living on a sandwich a day. They ruined these 2 cops' lives.
But I think the government does that with everything. I mean, you take what's his name, the tinfoil guy, down in Alabama.
Yeah, the case during Pascagoula, right before Pascagoula in Alabama.
It was the same as him. I mean, he says he got a report. He went down there.
The police chief.
Yeah, and he went down there, and this thing was. It looked. I mean, if you looked at, they said it couldn't be because but the alien from the Pascagoula, it looked similar to him.
Right.
They end up burning this guy's house down. They end up, really. So why even report this
The
stuff?
police chief. They burned his house down and ran him out of town.
Yeah.
The
And
police
you wonder
chief.
why I wear a mask.
And that's why, that's perfect. That's why people, and that's exactly what they wanted to plant in your mind.
They're still doing it.
Take this off. No. Don't come forward. Don't come, if you come forward, there's ramifications so like Kennedy said, with these whistleblowers should be praised. We shouldn't go after them, right?
Yeah.
People who come forward with the truth, but we don't do that. We demonize these people, and it's wrong.
But again, let's look at this now. Who runs the government? I mean,
I'm not certain anymore.
Yeah,
It's not
well,
the
that's what I'm
president.
saying. I mean,
it's
maybe
not
some
really
of
the
these,
president.
maybe some of these people are running the damn government.
Well,
I mean, so here we go. I mean, the president don't run nothing. I mean, he's nothing but a little lackey up there. He's told what to do, when to do, and how to do it.
He's a mouthpiece and doesn't have the power that he thought he had
Right.
when he got in that office. At some point they sit him down and they say, Mr. President, let me tell you, this is how it's going to be.
Right.
You can do this, this, and this. And that annoys me that there's this other group that meets and they determine what direction the country's going in, how they're going to socially change things.
Well,
Who are they? I didn't elect them.
Well, they did that ever since they killed Kennedy. I mean,
Right.
if you look when Eisenhower was in,
Well, Kennedy was fighting all of that,
Yeah.
and look what it got him.
but if you look when Eisenhower was in, they told him he couldn't go to Area 51. He just told them straight up, either I go or the First Army's going in.
Yeah,
We're taking control of everything.
He was going to
you know?
send the First Army from Colorado, I
Right,
think,
right.
over, and they were going to enter Area 51.
Yeah, and they couldn't do nothing about it. But then you got Kennedy got knocked off. Now they know they got that power. Okay, I mean they want power. I mean it's like some of the cases we've done. I mean me and Sam had our telephone tapped.
Yeah.
I mean for a case we did down in West Mifflin. I mean you got triangular craft landing down there by someplace, and you start asking questions, and the government comes right down on you. What do you want to know this for?
Yeah, well, it's
You
a
know?
shame, and it's not the America we were born into, but, time flies, and that's our show for today.